Youths of today are the leaders of tomorrow, and that is from Nelson Mandela. Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Youth Island on your darling station Ogtv. Youth Island is that program where we bring to you from burner issues affecting youth and we offer solutions to them. I'm your host, Onidamola Kindele. This program is divided into two segments. We have the discussion segment and the skill acquisition segment. The discussion segment, that we discuss topics pertaining to the youth, while the skill acquisition segment, so we talk about vocational skills and how we can acquire them. Today we are talking about an essential topic: youth engagement in community development. Young people are not only shaping the future, they are shaping the present. From volunteer projects and environmental activism to social entrepreneur and local governance, youth around the world are making incredible impact in their communities. Also around the world, we see young people are stepping up to lead projects, advocate for social change, and also bring fresh ideas into their communities. But what does it really mean to be engaged in community development? To help us answer these questions, we have a fantastic guest in our midst. His name is Adeola Adeyemi. Adeola is passionate about youth advocacy. He's a social entrepreneur who leads various community projects and also with young people at the forefront. Let's welcome Adeola Adeyemi to Youth Island. Welcome to Youth Island.
Thanks so much for having me. Glad to be with you.
It's so lovely to have you here. Now let's talk about youth and community development. What are we talking about? What exactly does it mean for youth to be involved in community development?
Thank you very much. It's a very critical question you asked because when it comes to community development, the young population make up the larger part of the population.
Yes.
So if I'm basically to rephrase that question, I could basically say, why is it necessary for the larger part of the population to be involved in community development? So in Nigeria, for instance, I think the figure is pegged at over 70%. And young ones are the set of people that bring in what we call fresh ideas. They have a unique perspective into how topics are being discussed. So basically, youth getting involved in how the community works, what affects their lives. Them being, like you said earlier on, even though I'm still coming back to counter that, of youth being leaders of tomorrow. I've always been a big fan of leadership, being a thing of the present. So leadership is a thing of the present. We are leaders of today, even though we are preparing for the tomorrow.
Yes.
So basically, I think it's very important for young ones to get involved in how their community actually progresses.
Now, why do you think it's critical for young people to be aware of their community development? Because I feel not everyone wants to be involved in their community due to one reason or the other. So why do you think it's critical for them to be actually involved in it?
The point is, the future of the community is their future, basically. They are both tied together. It's a joint, destiny. So why shouldn't I be, critical or concerned about what happens to my future? What happens to the society or the community is also what happens to my future. So because of that very, first factor, youth, young ones, basically are supposed to be involved. But like you said, not everybody is, which is of course normal. So one of the advocacy we're doing now is to, advocate to more people to get involved. Mm-hmm. The more we are, the better it is actually, as a matter of fact.
Now, let me talk about you personally. What inspired you to start, working with youth to lead a better society?
Well, I've always been passionate about community development over time, for some years now. And it's always a thing of joy when I see young people being involved in activism, taking charge, getting involved, and not just staying aloof. We've had so many people saying it doesn't concern them or what have you.
Yes.
Then, like I said earlier on, the destiny is the joint one. And again, young ones are basically, imagine you have a young one getting involved at a very early stage. We have that sustainability. By the time you start growing up and you leave that youth bracket, you've had a lot of experience that you can actually bring to the table, to contribute more to the development of society. Now,
have you ever worked personally in a community project before?
Yes, we've had a series of projects I've been involved in. I can remember at a point in time we facilitated training sections for youths, young ones. I'm always also been a student of the school of thought that believes that practical skills are basically much more important. So we are looking at, we did then, the programs we did, empowered so many youths with hand-on skills, digital skills that are actually capable of generating income, making them stand alone on their own. We've also done projects targeted at secondary school students. I can remember just recently we facilitated JAMS training section for students that were taking the JAMS section, and it's going to interest you to even know that we had some students that couldn't even use the mouse.
Wow.
That was the first time they were actually handling it, And then we've had a series of testimonies, particularly from that episode. Some of them gain admission already. There's so many, but then just to mention a few.
Okay, so we're talking about youth and community development. What are some practical ways youths can get involved in their community development? Now let's talk about on a much smaller scale, not on the larger scale.
On the larger scale.
Yes.
All right, if we are to domesticate it, like you said, on a smaller scale, I want to believe each community has a youth organization, a youth association, at each bringing up.
I would not say every community, because you would see some villages that don't even have, like smaller communities. Some don't even have it.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say every one of them have it.
Okay, for those who don't have, it's a problem that has a solution. If there is no youth body, then one can start that. It's even much more easy that way. The fact that you are pioneering something new.
Yeah.
For those who have already, getting involved in the youth body is one of the ways you can start out. And even beyond youth join organizations, in your own personal space, what are you doing to influence society positively? It's always about the influence. I should also chip in the fact that one of the mentalities some of our youth have is the fact that they believe they're not in any political position or office to contribute. But then it doesn't, start from there. It comes down to your own personal space, your friendship, your family. What are you contributing positively, to advance the cause of the society?
So what are some creative ways youths can get involved in community development?
It's a question that needs specifics. For instance, in my own community, what we need may be different from what another community needs. So basically, there are problems, there are challenges across different communities. So if we are able to identify these particular challenges, we can now factor out solutions, as one progresses. So it starts with understanding your society. Where is the society going? Does this society has, a prospect for me? Am I really involved in this later on? So I could know how I can actually come in as, one of the, how can I put that? I can actually come in as a positive influence.
Yes. On
the society I'm involved in. The specifics, you could join a club, it could be you going down to schools, it
can be volunteering nights.
Maybe you not even littering the floor, it's part of it.
Or helping your neighbor or something.
Helping your neighbor. I've always advocated for partnership when it comes to community development. The fact that whatever somebody else is doing, we can join in to advance that cause. Why not joining?
Now, have you, what are any specific projects you've worked on?
Yeah, I mentioned some earlier on. I talked about the skill acquisition project.
The one where you played a major role?
Yes, the skill acquisition project, for instance, I led the team. I could remember, my hometown is Lara, for instance, Ogun State, and we went back home to actually facilitate skill acquisition training sections for young ones. We've done that a couple of times, and we're still going to do that more. I also talked about the jam team we had for students. I'm also very much involved in the community activism, back home as well. We get involved in projects like cleaning up projects, environmental projects.
I've seen core members also, they tend to organize stuff like that.
Yes, I think it's also part of, the integral process of the youth corps, the fact that you have to do something while serving.
Yes.
So it's a very nice initiative. It's a bridging ground for people to actually see that they have to contribute. The sorrowful thing is some people don't know they have to. They just expect the society to keep giving back to them. But then it has to be a balance. You give to the society before you can request back. Now
let's talk about Ogun State. How would you rate, on a scale of 100, how would you rate youth's participation in community development?
Right, thank you very much. I'm a member of the National Youth Council of Nigeria, Ogun State chapter. Yes. So if I'm to take a look at it from that angle, I think Ogun State has one of the best youth involvement when it comes to getting involved in how things are being done. It's a very commendable one. We have youth bodies across, I can give you that, across all the local governments actively involved in how their community progresses. So it's commendable. It's not like it's perfect. We still have so much to do. We still have to call on the government perhaps to, give more support. The mentorship is also an headache. The fact that some youths, even though they are willing to actually contribute, they don't have, access to the right mentorship or access to the right resources. So it's always been a headache. But then when it comes to, youth being passionate about contributing to their society, we're going to stay this at the fore.
Let's quickly go on a short break. We'll be right back. Just joining, this is still Youth Island on your darling station Ogtv. Before we went on the break, we're discussing youth involvement and empowerment in community development, why it is important as a youth to be actively engaged in your community. And our guest has been able to tell us what youth engagement in their community development is, and he also shared his own personal story on how he's contributing his own quota to enable the growth of his community. So we know youth engagement in community development is not easy. Is there any challenges you faced, and how did you overcome them?
There's so many challenges, as a matter of fact. The first one is access to resources.
Okay.
You are at a stage of life where you have perhaps all the time, you have the strength, but then you have limited access to resources. So it's always hard for you to go all in. One of the reasons I've come across some youths, that have opined that one of the reasons they are not actively involved is because they don't have, the right resources. Why should they be contributing to society when, their life is not balanced yet, if I can put that in quotes. Yeah. So it's always been a challenge. So we need more youth that have access to resources. We need all stakeholders to start taking that, as a very important thing. The fact that if young minds, like I said earlier on, young minds basically have, that fresh perspective. They bring in fresh perspective into the discourse. So if we have those set of people, well empowered, not just with money, when we're talking about resources, not just money, it could be skills. For instance, you get to see government initiatives, some of them, empowering youth with skill sets or, machineries and what have you. If you are to compare, you get to realize those people that have been empowered with, for instance, let's say I'm a youth and I'm into fashion, and then you give me a tailoring machine, a sewing machine rather, and I don't have the resources to actually make that machine work, I'll end up selling it. So the balance is needed there. We have to create a balance between, the money and also the skill set.
Now, you talked about the challenges. How can they overcome these challenges?
Well, all hands must be on deck. The fact that it's not just the government, it's everybody, all stakeholders must have a change of perspective. I've also come across, some elders, if I can put it that way, that do not really believe young ones have, right opinion. I
think that is something that we are still contending till date.
Exactly. So they don't want you to come in with that fresh perspective, like I said earlier on. They're so used to what it used to be. The rigidity is there. So on that end, we need to appeal to those set of people, to give room for more youthful contribution. Also appeal to the government, like I said earlier on, to actually have, a youth-focused framework. Okay. So have a youth policy. We advocate that all, states, all Nigerian states actually have a youth-focused policy, that looks at the plight of the youth. They will domesticate it. Whatever is happening in Lagos might be different from Ogun State. So the domestication is very much important. And then it has to be reviewed over time. So it's something that everybody must get involved with.
Now that's a very wonderful one. Now let's talk about technology. Do you think technology help or hinder youth in community development?
Thank you. Technology is actually
they say the world is a global village. Yes. So would you say technology help or hinder?
Both ways actually. Like I was trying to build up, it's a two-edged sword. We have the benefits and then we have disadvantages. But the benefit, for instance, we've seen the amplification of voices. The fact that as a youth anywhere in Nigeria, I can just pick up my phone and have a voice, and anybody from any part can listen to me. We've also seen youth have access to different job opportunities remotely. For instance, I work remotely as well for some brands, and that's with the aid of technology.
You're such a bundle of talent, I must say.
Thank you. So that's also through the aid of technology. But having said that, I think the particular challenge I will bring into the framework is the fact that it's also addictive. Some youths, can get lost in its usage, With the new evolution now, the AI thing, artificial intelligence coming into the picture, we've had a lot of youths become more lazy, relying so much on the use of AI and what have you. And it's my interest to you that you can come across a youth that writes just so fine, but then by the time you meet them, they're not able to actually, back up what they're doing because they rely so much on technology, for their content creation. So a balance is, advocated here.
Now, you mentioned something about helping some particular set of students to train them on how to use ICT for their JAMB and everything. Do you think ICT play a huge role in community development?
It does. It's an information technology world. The first century is, for instance, I think I gave this particular example recently somewhere. I was on the island and I walked into a bank, and the customer service attendant was a robot. Wow.
In this Nigeria?
Yeah.
Wow.
We have robot attendant as customer service agents. So if I were to be a bank owner, for instance, why should I employ,
But I think that would reduce human workforce. It will have an adverse effect on how people would get jobs.
Well, I won't rule that out, but what I will advocate is the fact that we cannot compete against it. We have to adopt it. I can't fight against, the use of artificial intelligence or robotics. The future is actually for people that can use them instead of actually going against them. So how do we make use of them? How do we create them?
What change would you like to see in communities helping youth development? Because not all communities are actually welcoming when it comes to youth trying to do one or two in their environment. So what changes would you like communities to do?
All right, we have to appeal to those leading the communities, traditional rulers, the government as a matter of fact, and every stakeholder. There has to be an opinion, the youthful opinion in every discourse. Every committee, everything being set up, we must have youth representatives there, and which is why I would advocate an inclusion. Earlier on, I made mention about the National Youth Council of Nigeria being the youth body, which is also based in every local government. We also have community youth organizations across board too. For instance, I'm also a member of the Yewa Youth Association.
I said earlier, I said you're a bundle of talent.
I'm from Yewa. I'm also a member of the Laro Youth Council, because that's my main town. So there are so many youth bodies which I'm involved in, and at every point in time, the stage is not going to be set for you as a youth. They won't give you on the platter of gold. You have to be the one to actually demand for it. We have that work to do, demand to be included in the discourse at every point in time.
Now, so what keeps you inspired? Because with the way you've been talking things, I would say you are someone that is actively involved in youth development. So what is that motive behind it? Like, what keeps you going? With the way the world is and the whole economy, we have different orders to pass. So what keeps you going? What helps you stay motivated to keep helping youth?
Thank you. I'm trying to look at how I can answer that very well. But I think what I can just chip in is the fact that I have this innate happiness, saying, things going just fine. We've done projects, volunteering projects in time past where we even spend our personal money to execute them and then nothing to come back there. But then the happiness that comes from it. The jam thing I made mention of, for instance, just 2 days ago, I had one of the students calling me, gain admission to University of Lagos Civil Engineering. So that feeling of happiness, of you making an impact, being there in the life of people, it's
what keeps you going. Yeah. Wow, that's a very wonderful one. Now, any message or advice you would like to share with any youth out there who is still thinking about doing something good in his or her community?
Right. Every single youth out there, my message is that they have to get involved.
Just get involved.
They just have to find a way to get involved. And thank God, a couple of, I think, 2 years ago, the Not Too Young to Run bill was passed, and it reduced the political age for people to actually contest for elective positions. And then, of course, the local government election is coming on in the state very soon. So we need to actually get involved in, this discourse, because these are things that actually shape our lives. Political decisions are very vital. You could decide to go that route. You could also decide to start a business, I've come to realize that entrepreneurs, for instance, even have a greater effect on lives, because you could do so many things, solve a problem, employ people.
As little as owning a shop in a deserted area is something.
Solving a particular problem for some set of people. So whichever way, in your own little capacity, whatever way you find yourself, always strive, to make a positive impact.
Well, this has been a very incredible session with you, Adeola. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming to today's program. And I'm sure our viewers have learned one or two in youth engagement in their community. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so youth engagement in community development isn't just important, it is transformative. When young people get involved, communities grow stronger, more resilient, and also more inclusive. To all our viewers, remember, no action is too small to make a difference. Whether you are planting a tree, helping a neighbor, or you are even volunteering at a local shelter, every effort counts. Get involved, stay inspired, and keep making a positive impact. And that's where we wrap it up on today's episode of Youth Island. This program still continues every Friday by 1:30 p.m. Also, don't forget to follow us across all our social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and X. My name is Zoinda Malakinele. Till I come your way again next week, let's keep working to make our communities thriving.